So there were a lot of movies in 2018 that I really loved, but, you know, that's just not interesting. Some of the movies in 2018 were really bad. I'm Jeremy Kessler, and these are my top 10 worst movies of 2018. So of course, as with the top 10, I didn't see every movie. And the difference between my top 10 and my bottom 10 are, you know, I just don't go to see movies I think I'm not gonna like. Some of these movies are on my list because I was forced to go with Oliver and Brittany. Look, I'm sure if I had gone to see The Grinch, it would be on my top 10 worst movies of the year. It's by one of my least favorite studios, and it looked really bad, but I don't want to put myself through that. Anyway, here are 10 movies that I hated this year. At number 10 is Annihilation. Look, Annihilation is not the worst movie on this list, and might not deserve being on a worst 10 list, but it doesn't change the fact that this movie was long, and it bored me. I know that a lot of people really like this movie, and they all search for this deeper meaning that may be there. I'm not going to say it's not, but the problem is that at a surface level point, this movie was just not interesting enough for me to want to think about it that much. If you're going to make a multi-level movie, all of the levels have to be enjoyable, not just the one that takes the most effort. This is exactly why Sorry to Bother You is on my best of, and Annihilation is on my worst of. Number 9 on this list is Hotel Artemis. The trailers for this movie really got me, and it boasted some actors that I liked, but the movie just couldn't follow through, and at this point I can't remember any of the actors that were in it except Dave Bautista, which probably says something about the performances. This movie is long and couldn't decide what direction it wanted to take, and from what I understand is a direct ripoff of John Wick, which I haven't seen, but it's good to know that if I ever want to watch this movie again, I could just watch a better version of it. Number 8 is A Simple Favor. I saw this movie with Oliver and Brittany, and they really liked this movie, but honestly, I think that's because they're being paid off by Lionsgate to increase the tomato meter on this movie, and honestly, I'm just mostly upset that they didn't include... I think I might have went a little too far. This is a movie that presents you with a mystery and tries to surprise you with the twist at the end, but to me, it felt really predictable. One of the major twists of this movie is just so cliche and such a bad twist, and really put a bad taste in my mouth. At the same time, there are a lot of jokes in this movie that just don't land for me and make the movie feel a bit tonally confused. Plus, in our ride home review when we were talking about the plot, there was confusion about what had happened in the movie, which was not intentional and shows a sloppy presentation on the movie's part.
You didn't even like the French music?
I don't remember there being French music in that movie, so I guess I didn't. I guess it just meant that little to me. Number 6 on this list is Vice. This movie just makes me tired, and I don't want to talk about it. We just did a ride home review of this movie. We recorded it less than a month ago, and my opinions on it haven't changed. Just go watch that, and it'll be pretty self-explanatory. Number 6 on this list is Bohemian Rhapsody. Look, I love Queen, but when this movie ended, my first thought was, well, that was dull. Talking about this movie is actually really frustrating for me because I walked out of the theater with so many specific thoughts on why I thought it was boring and why I thought it didn't work, but it was so boring and uninteresting to me that I couldn't even retain that information in my head of why I don't like it. The one thing I really have to say about why this movie is bad is that the movie lies to you. It has this whole plot point about the band breaking up because of something that Freddie did, and it's all false, completely. The reasons that they would have had for being mad at him were completely unfounded due to what happened in real life. Look, I'm okay with changing some events to make a movie more interesting, but it lied to me. And it still wasn't interesting. I didn't even know that the movie lied to me when I left the movie, and I still didn't like it then. Don't watch Bohemian Rhapsody, just put on any Queen album and you'll have a better time. Starting my top 5 worst movies of the year is Venom at number 5. This movie's kinda hard to place because while the movie is bad, I did enjoy myself while I was watching it. But not for the reasons they wanted me to. And hey, what the fuck do I know? Everybody else loves this movie. Venom has one thing going for it, and that's the relationship between Eddie Brock and the symbiote.
We call them symbiotes.
Symbiote?
We call them symbiotes.
Symbiotes?
I don't even remember anymore. Thanks, Venom. But even then, the symbiote delivers its lines in such a low, grovelly voice that's hard to understand that you're gonna miss some of the lines.
He's got shit you can't even imagine. It knives.
The big climactic battle scene is so bad because Venom looks exactly like the guy he's supposed to be fighting. The rules are not established as to what these characters can do, so I don't know what's going on. And it's so dark that I can't even see the thing in the first place. So, for number 4, I know that I said that I don't like to go see movies that I know are going to be bad, but I definitely put myself through Teen Titans Go. Oh, where the fuck did I go see this movie? I'm not the target audience for this movie, and I know that. That doesn't mean it had to be bad. And I also know that, once again, I'm in the minority here because a lot of people like this movie. I think the reason people like Teen Titans Go at all is because it's a colorful mess that kids can get into, and parents will go, yeah, it keeps my kid busy for a while. Why would it be any different in movie form? And it's not. I won't lie to you, this movie does have a couple of good jokes, but they almost seem like they're by accident because the movie also has a 5-minute joke about how the Teen Titans went to poop in a toilet that's not a real toilet.
I pooped in it.
Ooh, doggy, do not go in that bathroom because I just wrecked it, baby.
That's what's up.
We're pooped in the toilet.
Stop that! You are pooping in a prop toilet!
I'm also the only person of the three of us making this list that has seen this movie, so you'll have to take my word on this. Making number 3 on this list is Death Wish. Death Wish is a movie that wants to be so badass, but honestly, that falls flat when you make one of your kills a Rube Goldberg machine that makes a bowling ball fall on the bad guy's head. I already know Bruce Willis is badass, but Death Wish tries so hard to convince me of that I'm honestly starting to doubt it. I mean, this is a movie about a guy taking the law into his own hands and shooting people that have wronged him, and I don't think that right now is the right time for that. The number 1 worst movie of the year, no doubt about it, was First Man. The main thing that is just so disappointing about First Man is that space is so inherently interesting that you can make a movie about a guy going to space and make it so dull to watch is kind of impressive on its own. Look, I'm just going to take a little bit here and talk about one scene in this movie and why it so doesn't work. I think this will make you understand why I think the whole movie is bad. For background, this is a scene where they're testing in space getting 2 pieces of a rocket ship to come together, and Neil Armstrong is piloting the ship. Something goes wrong, the ship starts spinning incredibly fast, the co-pilot has passed out because of the G-forces, and Neil Armstrong is about to pass out, and he has to figure out some way to stop the ship, or he's going to pass out and they're both going to die. This is high stakes. This is interesting. The first problem you run into is there is not a single goddamn person that is going to walk into this movie and not know that Neil Armstrong makes it to the moon. This doesn't have to be a problem, though. There's plenty of other movies that you can walk into and know what's going to happen at the end, but the journey is still interesting, and how they're getting there is still interesting. The movie fails at this, too. The problem with the way the movie fails at this is that space travel is, pretty complicated stuff. There's a reason the expression, it's not rocket science, exists. Rocket science is complicated. Rightfully so, the movie doesn't take time to explain to you how flying a rocket ship works. The problem with watching him try to solve this problem is that it's just Ryan Gosling sitting there flipping switches. I don't know what any of these switches are supposed to do, and none of them look like they're doing anything. They might as well just be aesthetic and on a toy. That's if you could even tell what's going on, because this movie looks like its cameraman has Parkinson's. The camera doesn't sit still through anything. And then at the end of the scene, Neil Armstrong saves everybody, and they sit down and they have another scene where they explain to you exactly what happened, which is boring. I should know what happened from watching the scene. Even when the movie tries to slow down and have Neil Armstrong have a conversation with his wife, the camera still doesn't stop shaking, and it's so zoomed in on his face, and I could sit here and give you an explanation as to it's suffocating because being Neil Armstrong and dealing with the death of your daughter feels like that. It's just bad filmmaking and it's not enjoyable to watch. No artistic explanation can give you any license to use camera work this shitty in a major motion picture. And that's why First Man sucks. Don't waste your time. I did for you. Those are my top 10 worst movies of 2018. You should not watch any of these movies unless you want to learn how to not make a movie. I also made a best of 2018, and my 2 friends Oliver and Brittany made them too.
Hey.
That's one. She said that. Brittany. I've also got a playlist down below of all the ride home reviews of the movies that we actually reviewed that are on this list. Anyway, that's it. I really hope I don't have to make one of these in 2019, because all of those movies will be good movies, right? Please? It's not asking for a lot. I'm Jeremy Kessler. Movie. My number 6. Yep, there it is. Whoa. From what I've heard, it's a direct ripoff of Wanjik.